This keynote speaker is Chief Digital Officer for Bank Alfalah, ex-CEO of Easy Paisa, and now the winner of 2 consecutive Best Digital Banking Awards as adjudged by the supreme banking body in Pakistan, the Institute of Bankers of Pakistan. Please welcome Mr. Muhammad Yahya Khan.
Ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum, and thank you. Honored to be speaking. Let's actually start with where the previous speaker left the conversation, which was the last mile, and this huge cash collection problem. So we see the role of the banks as the facilitators or enablers in the value chain to facilitate merchants or retailers selling their goods or services to customers. And I think banks must realize their role as enabler. Right? When the referee becomes the most powerful player on the field, that's not a match well played. So the first problem, which my previous speaker finished the conversation, we realize there's a huge amount of cash that is being collected by all value chains, not just the last mile delivery companies, but the retailer themselves. They pick up cash. We heard earlier, Mr. Chairman was talking about it, that retail shops mostly open after Zohar prayers in Pakistan, and they go on until 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. Banks shut at 5 o'clock, right? And the retailers, they're nodding their heads here because they realize what happens between 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. They have to hoard cash, and then when they shut their shops at 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. in the morning, they have to figure out what to do and how to transport. And there are all sorts of techniques which are available. Anyway, so about a few years ago, we decided that we wanted to deploy indigenously engineered cash deposit machines. I was sitting with Suhail Saab and we were talking about it. So now in Pakistan, and we were one of the banks, I think the other banks are hopefully coming through also, who deployed about 400 cash deposit machines. We are now collecting over 400 billion rupees a year from those machines. And our peak time, I was telling, is from 5 p.m. till 12 a.m. In the morning, because that's when retailers come in and deposit those cash. So again, as an enabler in the value chain, trying to solve the problem. The distribution companies use it, retailers use it, courier companies use it also. We also heard the other problem is the check clearing problems, right? We realize especially the payments from the merchants to their suppliers is mostly in checks. Right? We heard earlier when Suhail Saab was speaking the RAS fantastic feature of request to pay at a later date. I think that's a feature that would be welcomed. And also, like any other thing, we cannot wean off something that has been in existence for decades. So checks, the paper instrument of check in this B2B payments has been in existence for decades. So we also have to, banks as an enabler have to come up with solutions as to how to expedite the clearing of the offers checks so that it doesn't take between 1 to 2 days, and how can we use the technology adoption to actually clear interbank checks real time, same day. So very soon, inshallah, you will be seeing those solutions also. The third one is when we talk about the payments at the retailer or the point of sale, there is also an onboarding process that happens prior to that. And I think for those retailers who are sitting here would perhaps agree that the onboarding process is not the simplest, and it takes weeks, if not months, for a retailer to become a digital payment acceptance retailer. And whatever that acceptance technology is, it could be a point of sale device, or it could be a QR device, or it could be RFID or NFC. that doesn't matter. But the whole process of being accepted as a merchant, opening your bank account, which is a business account, you must really know somebody in the bank to get that through. So, and everything that I'm saying here, at least we have done it. So I'm not just articulating the problem statement, we've also provided solutions. So there's a merchant app, in our case, it's called Alpha Business App, that merchants can download from the Play Store, Android and iOS. And then within that app, onboard themselves as a digital payment acceptance merchant, as well as open the business account from there. The other issue is, we heard earlier, the customers who are walking in, they're walking in, or at least 70% of them are walking in with cash in their pockets. Right? So earlier we saw the penetration of cards, all cards put together between debit and credit in this country are about 45 million cards, right? And I'm not eliminating the double counting effect that one customer has multiple banks cards. So 45 million cards. So at least our estimate is that 70% of the customers who are walking in to buy something at the retail or online don't even have a digital instrument to pay from. How to solve that problem? How to solve a customer who has walked in with 500 rupees of cash in their pocket and you need to convert? The central bank has enabled, they have given technologies to be able to convert a customer real time from a cash to a digital, whatever means, whether it's an Asan account or a wallet account or a prepaid card. And now we are working with retailers and merchants community to become our partners so that they can convert this cash paying customer to a digital payment customers. We also heard the lack of integration. For most merchants, even today, there is no integration between the payment acceptance terminal and their tills, right? That's why you would have seen that the merchant calculates the sum on a till and then manually enters their amount on the POS device, and then the POS device accepts the payment, and then he manually goes back again into his till and then updates the till that I've received the payment. With the exception of very, very large merchants, this phenomenon exists in the country, which renders themselves to manual errors, the reconciliation issues. At night, the accountant sits together and then he reconciles, okay, what you collected on the payment acceptance devices, how much I have cash in my till, and what my till is telling me that I should have received as the daily takings. So again, there are specialist suppliers who have been digitizing this integration between the payment systems and the retailers' POSes, and so is our bank. So when we deploy a payment acceptance methodology, we also integrate this with the retailers. How would a merchant see what transaction they have received on a real-time basis? Today, for most part, is through an SMS, right? And so SMS is their holy grail. They save that SMS for them at night, and they look at all those SMSs that they have received, and then they run an end-of-day POS run. It prints a big roll for them as a hard copy, and then they reconcile the SMS that I received, and then that the money has landed in my account, and the POS, the statement that they're saying. There is a need, and again, we have done it again in Alpha Business App, there's a need that the merchants should have an application in which they should be able to see real time whether the payment that they've just received from the customer has actually been reflected in their statement or not. Then the settlement time I talked about earlier, and the settlement time, and we heard earlier when Suhail was also speaking, one other advantage that the faster payment system such as RAS does is that it instantly settles the money from the issuing bank to the acquiring bank, so from a customer account to the retailer's account. And this whole shebang about anywhere between 1 to 2 days that is taken to settle, that's another impediment, right? If you're fighting against cash, we have to fight on multiple fronts. Cash is instant. retailers and merchants receive cash instantly, whereas when they accept a digital payment, it takes 2 days time for it to settle. Anyway, RAS and the faster payment system solves that problem. The other problem that digital payments have is the merchant discount rates, right? And we know this, typically anywhere between say up to 2% merchant discounts rate. And then it spreads between issuer interchange and acquiring fees and scheme fees. But again, merchant, don't expect every merchant to be able to calculate that what is my cost of cash handling. They see cash as zero cost instrument. They don't calculate that I have to go to bank and count it and I have an issue of fake notes and everything. None of that, right? In Pakistan, we have lots of people doing that thing. But when they accept payment digitally, it's a 2% MDR. Again, earlier as we heard, RAS, I think this is a master stroke, and I say this thing, have issued the regulation that says the issuer bank cannot charge for debiting the account, right? Because the largest proportion of this 2% was the issuer interchange fee that used to be paid to the issuer bank. For just holding the deposit. So I think that's another incentive for merchants to move to RAS, because when the payment is then received via RAS railroads, there is no issuer interchange fee. Then if there is an MDR, it is hopefully going to be a very small merchant discount rate. And we believe in this and we do this. The other role that I think is often less talked about is the aggregator's responsibility of sharing merchants like you reporting. So the aggregators all over the world, whether it's Alibaba or Amazon's, they bucket merchants in a category, whether it's fashion or electronics, and then they share with them what the market is doing. Again, in the business app, merchants would be able to see that. So I'm skipping a few, but the one at least in the proximity one, and then I'll briefly talk about the online one. The other is the issuance of the co-branded prepaid cards. Merchants need that. They want to run their loyalty programs, and again we have one of those things. Coming to online, and I'll not repeat the common problem statements that are common between the proximity and the online, but I'll talk about some peculiar ones. So for those of you who have ever tried to get a payment gateway installed, it's a mission and a half, right? It's probably twice the mission in order to get compared to getting a physical POS device. So why can't we have a service like PayPal? PayPal doesn't require anybody to come to their branches and get a PayPal account activated for a merchant. So again, the need is for payment gateways, those that are operating in Pakistan, a handful, probably less than under 10. They should have a real-time merchant onboarding as a payment gateway service provider through the plugins which are available. And again, in our case, once again, Alpha Payment Gateway that is available. We heard earlier when we were hearing from the TCS that the logistics and the last mile. One other last mile or the value chain issue is the amount of time that it takes for a COD delivery, and a cash on delivery is probably, from any estimates, about, let's say, 70%. 70% of all e-commerce sales that happen in this country happen cash on delivery. The cash then takes anywhere between 3 to 14 days, depending upon how small the merchant is and how far the delivery was. So for up to 14 days, a merchant is out of cash. They've given the delivery of their consignment to the courier company, but they receive the cash anywhere between 3 to 14 days. Again, banks' role come in there to provide the working capital financing, or in this case, we call the cash on delivery financing. And if banks are willing to underwrite the risk on courier company, in this case, because it's the courier company who now have the consignment, and so you're never out of collateral. And again, we have a product that does that. And finally, for smaller merchants, those who don't even have a website, those who have a website, they can have an integration of payment gateway services. But those who don't, there has got to be a feature which can generate a link which can go on a customer's WhatsApp or SMS, which the customer can click and make a payment. And once again, that is available in the service that we offer. So that, in summary, is what we feel as an enabler for the value chain between a merchant and a customer, some of the problem statements and how the banks have been trying to address that with the regulator. Thank you.